warm in here. Typically what they do is they all go into her room the first day. Yeah. They lay out the
Thank you.
Hey, sweetie.
Yep, fine.
That sort of thing, yeah.
There it goes.
Thanks. I was trying to save trees. That's old school. It is. Okay, you ready? All right. I call this meeting to order at 7 o'clock. First order of business, pledge allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda?
Any discussion? Changes? Amendments? Nope. All those in favor? Aye.
Is there a second to that motion?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll second.
Could I get a motion to approve the open session minutes of June 8th, 2015?
Motion to approve the open session minutes of June 8th.
Any,
Just a real minor change. On Roman numeral 9, correspondence, the last sentence, this request will become moot, M-O-O-T. I will be mute, M-U-T-E, but the point will be moot. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
okay. With that adjustment, I'm just gonna do that.
Make motion to approve the adjustment.
Approve the minutes with the adjustment?
Yes.
Perfect. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Community comments. I know it's the summertime and we're all filled with much of the community here tonight. Everybody loves to come on a good summer day to a good school committee meeting. All right, on that note, I'll move to student comments. I know Chris isn't here tonight, so because they're out enjoying the end of the school year. So look at that, then we'll move quickly there, and then the superintendent comments.
Alrighty. Two things I just want to put on your radar screen. They're both from the state. I have the feeling that we will be revisiting these in a lot more depth than I will tonight. Because they both have kind of been rolled out towards the end of May, and they're starting to percolate. And there's, as I was saying to Dorothy right before we began, they're starting to percolate with the superintendents and now with the school committee association. First one is kind of significant in the sense that the state is changing its definition of low-income students, okay? For many, many years, low income has been defined as a student that receives free or reduced lunch, okay? They're changing it now. They're not using the term low income. They're now using the term economically disadvantaged. And instead of using as the metric free or reduced lunch, they're using that they are a participant through the community eligibility program, which has kind of been phrased as direct certification. So essentially, we have students that may be part of the SNAP, or the Supplemental Nutrition Assistant Program. They may be receiving services through transitional assistance for families. They may be affiliated with DCF, or maybe receiving Medicaid. Those students now have direct certification for free and reduced lunch, okay? Their families don't have to fill out the application or anything of that sort. So I think just for the purposes of discussion and comparison, I asked Diane Mucci, our food service director, for these numbers just on Friday, and you can see what the numbers are. At present, we finished this school year with 273 of our students, or 11.6% of our student population receives free and reduced lunch. Under the state's new definition, that percentage jumps down to 7.6%, okay? It's reduced down to 178 students. So that's pretty significant. Okay, that's basically 1/3 of the students gone. Now you're saying, okay, well, we're a relatively small percentage district. We're not like urban or urban ring communities. But realize this state definition is used in our Chapter 70 funding formula. It's used for the purposes of accountability. Recall, when you think about our subgroups and you think about high needs and so on, economically disadvantaged is part of that. We're going to be talking a little bit about technology, our E-rate reimbursement for internet through the feds. They look at economically disadvantaged. So it's got a whole bunch of implications. So the state has rolled out this new definition, but like most things in life, the devil's in the details. They haven't rolled out yet how they're going to change certain things, specifically the Chapter 70 funding formula. Okay, I put in your background notes the factor for grades 1 through 8, that a student was considered to be economically disadvantaged. It was an additional $3,400 per pupil. For high school kids, 9 through 12, it's an additional $2,700 per student. So doing some quick math, if they don't adjust the formula and we were to look at that fewer students, and that represents going down from, what did I say it was, 273 down to 178. That's a loss of 95 students. If you were to say roughly $3,000 per student, that's a change of about $285,000, okay? Again, we're a low incidence district. There's other districts, some of my colleagues, they've seen a shift of upwards of about 20% in a reduction as far as from free and reduced lunch to this new metric, economically disadvantaged. So something that definitely bears watching, that we will, keep a close monitor on.
So when do we think the impact of this would be felt?
Wouldn't be felt, according to their advisory bulletin, which they put out in May 22nd, until the FY17 year.
Okay.
Okay?
So we'll have a year to plan for it.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. And the second thing, again, from the state, again, they released this on May 21st, so the end of May. We're in a bit of a limbo, unfortunately, with regard to knowing what we're going to be using as far as a test. I know this committee last school year had a pretty significant discussion regarding MCAS versus Park. The Board of Education is slated to make its decision in October, whether the state will stay with MCAS or some type of new and improved MCAS that's aligned with Common Core, or go strictly to Park. I've been told that don't be surprised if that October deadline spills into November, unfortunately. But I do think it's interesting that it was announced on May 21st that they've taken the Park, and based upon feedback of administration, they're shortening it. I think that's some real good news. Personally, I think they could go even farther than what they've gone, but they've gone from 2 testing windows, one as a performance-based assessment in March, and then an end-of-year assessment in May, to just one end-of-year assessment in May. One testing window, approximately at the 80 to 90% point of the school year. So that would really kind of put you within that first 2 weeks of May. Reducing the total testing time by approximately 90 minutes. I believe it's an hour in mathematics and 30 minutes in ELA. So definitely a step in the right direction, to be continued. Hopefully we'll get a little bit more guidance come the fall. Being the father of, I think you guys saw this visual right there on the screen. My 9th grader took the Park in Rhode Island for both testing windows. It was a lot. It really was. So something to bear watching. Okay. And that's all what I've got.
So we won't know any of the decisions, you think, out of the state in regards to what direction they're going to go until the October, November timeframe?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And again, this is affecting, the high school is staying status quo through 2018.
Mhm.
2018, right? And so we're really talking about what are we going to be administering to grades 3 through 8.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Any subcommittee updates? Okay, and old business. FY 2016 budget discussion and next steps. I put this on the calendar so that we can spend a minute and just talk about, call it the worst case scenario that I realize nobody wants to see, but what would we have to do in terms of dates if the override does not pass in Mendon on the 30th? Because then we would have to reconvene, have a discussion around the budget, have a discussion around potential for a joint town meeting. And I know I've been asked numerous times, well, if that was to, if you were to actually have a joint town meeting, when do you think it would be? So I just wanted to put out there some proposal in terms of the process, because if the vote happens on the 30th, I know that's the week leading up to the 4th of July. A number of people I think that I've talked to are on vacation that week, myself included, Joe as well. So I was thinking that we probably wouldn't reconvene until somewhere around the 8th or the 9th. And then we would, we'd go through whatever options were there. If we did vote to have a joint town meeting, that joint town meeting would probably be 14 days out from there, which would be the 21st or the 23rd, I think. Just trying to take a look, because I think it'd just be important for people to know kind of generally around what date it would happen. This is not a formal commitment, but it is just to put it out there, because the 23rd would probably be a Thursday night. Probably have it on Wednesday or Thursday night, so that would give us the 14 days. It would give the town clerks the opportunity to prepare with Kelly. Kelly is the town clerk of one town, she'd be able to work with the other one. It would give the selectmen a chance to meet in terms of picking the moderator. And then we would be able to arrange the facilities, inside of the Nipmuc gymnasium and auditorium to be prepared to handle up to 2,500. If we needed to, probably the cafeteria for another 500. So 3,000 people, which should be more than fine for planning for twice to 3 times the amount of the normal group of people that show up for any town meeting on either side. In total. I don't know if people have comments, if people have thoughts about a date. If we were to do something, would they want it sooner? I'm just kind of putting that out there because I think it's, part of it is just putting some dates out there so that people know, but also too to understand. The question I've been asked is how quickly can it happen? Because I know summer, July and August are big vacation times. People want to know because if they're planning vacation and they're planning to be away, when would that be? I don't know if those dates work or don't work for people. So, thoughts, question?
For me, the dates were fine.
Okay.
Would you said that the meeting, if the overall fails, then we discuss the next steps of possible joint town meeting. That is scheduled 14 days out from our 8th or 9th
Yes.
date.
It has to be at a minimum, I believe, 14 days after the vote is taken to have the meeting.
So
Do you think that's right?
If you can get it posted, I'm not sure what the posting requirement is, but I know on the town side, if you have a special town meeting, it needs to be 14 days out of the posting date. And I don't know if you include the day of the posting, so if you have the meeting on the
Date of
7th.
posting would probably be the next day, right?
Yeah,
So
and you
it-
have to get constables to post it, probably.
Yeah, I think we would probably end up, so that I think that it would be probably the 23rd, because that would allow us to have the meeting on Wednesday night, post it on Thursday, and then it would be 14 days out from that Thursday would be when it would be. Let me see if I have a piece on it.
Yeah, looking at the calendar, just as you're looking at that up,
Mhm.
I was just thinking you might be better off giving yourself an extra day of leeway there and not doing it as of the 14th day. And maybe having the school committee meeting on the 7th. Then you've got the 8th time to prepare the warrant and get it posted, and then you definitely have 14 days before the 23rd.
Okay.
Based on how it runs on the town side, I haven't read the statute on that.
Notice shall be given at least 14 days prior to the date of such meeting. So I think it's the same parameter.
Yeah. I would have concerns actually posting it on the exact 14th day
Yep.
that you're not having.
All right. I think generally, I think we would be somewhere, I think the end target for the date of, if we were to have a meeting and vote on it, the process would probably run towards somewhere around the 23rd of July.
Do you want to commit to a potential date for that school committee meeting in the event of a failure? Because realize what the school committee would have to do again at that meeting would be recertify the budget, correct?
Yes.
So do we want to commit to a date for that meeting?
I can commit to the 8th, I can't commit to the 7th. I'll be on a plane on the night of the 7th.
Likewise.
Okay. So then that means we probably might not have the meeting until the 24th. That'd be Friday night.
Well,
People have a feeling that a Friday night's better than a Monday night of the following week, or?
and again, we can double check to see if it can be the 14th day.
Yep. I mean, just giving ourselves a little time to prepare as well, I think is important, so maybe it's it would actually, it might spill over into the Monday or Tuesday of the following week. Maybe it's a better goal date. So, that would end up being the 27th to the 28th. Okay. I just think it's important that we get something out there so that people at least understand where we're targeting and what dates would fall in if we were to, if these things, clearly there are a number of steps, and the hope is that the override would pass clearly. But if it wasn't and we had to reconvene, we'd reconvene that school committee meeting on the 8th. And then we would vote on we'd go through the process of recertification and vote. And then we would, set a date and a time for probably a joint town meeting if we had to. There would be sometime around the 27th or 28th of July. Other thoughts? Is that a good week for people? It's never a good week, but it's just summertime.
We're not available the 8th, school planning update.
Okay. Okay.
When would we actually start our budget? If we had to.
We're able to do it with 5, you're able to do it with a quorum of 4 people or more. Question is, Diane, if you want us to move it, I'm happy to move it to the 9th if you wish.
I won't be until the 11th,
Okay.
so it's not. It's okay.
Let's do that remote, right?
Yeah, I can always do it remote.
Yeah, you can.
Thanks for doing it.
Yeah. We just need to take a roll call vote. I don't think it would be a very long meeting at all, so.
Okay, okay.
And to be respectful of you being on vacation, I think would be, if we had to do that, we can make those arrangements to make that happen.
Sounds good.
Okay? Perfect. Any other thoughts? Yes, Bill.
Okay,
Community
I don't know
comments.
if it's the right place and time to ask this question.
Sure.
Last Saturday, I was at the Mendon Senior Center, Q&A from the Boston Selectmen, the Mendon Selectmen. And I couldn't stay till the end, I had to go, so that's why I came up with the question here. There's still a lot of confusion, I mean, a ton, about why the Mendon Board of Selectmen allow a revote. So I basically know why, but can you maybe explain it in a normal language why? Why
So
the Board of Selectmen did allow a revote?
The reason they've done a revote is because with us recertifying the number,
Yeah.
they have to go back to figuring out how they would come up with that budget.
I understand.
And they have basically come to the conclusion that they would need to try for an override again.
Yes.
And so that's the second step of the process, and they're back out asking for another override
Okay.
of the same amount.
So what would have happened, because that's very confusing, if the Board of Selectmen of Mendon would have not allowed the other vote?
If they've not allowed another, they would have found they basically are saying they would have found the money somewhere else.
Or,
If they did not permit a vote, my understanding, Wilhelm, is that they would have to de facto pay the assessment from the
Right.
regional
Correct.
school.
okay, and that is where the confusion is. Nobody seems to be understanding that.
I mean,
Because-
really, my understanding is the Board of Selectmen had one of two options.
Yes.
Pay the assessment of the recertified budget, or put it out to a second override vote.
Correct. And
Right.
because they have a desire not to impact the overall town services, they've put it out to a second vote.
Okay. So I was trying to get an answer last Saturday, but I had to leave, so I couldn't come up with, but I thought it was a better meeting to ask it here, because it's for the,
I believe, to Joe's point, I believe that is the reason why, because, the vote isn't necessarily about the school, it is, but the vote technically is about gaining an override amount so that they can allocate the amount in total to the school that the school is asking for, so that they can do it, just like what Upton did.
I do understand that.
Yes,
I
I
just
know.
want the voters voters to understand. I just-
I can tell you, even in Upton, when we went through the process, and we had the town meeting at the end to actually allocate the funds, where people had to come back because we hadn't allocated the funds like Mendon had, contingent on an override, we had to come back and people were confused about that as well.
So I just want everybody to understand the process.
Yes.
And the thing that makes it unique is the fact that we are a regional school district, and we're not a school district of just one community.
Yeah.
Correct.
And really, it comes down to what do you do when there is a split decision? Okay, way out in the western part of the state, Adams, Cheshire, they're going through the same exact process right now.
Because the question was, well, no means no, but no means no when Upton says yes. What does that mean then?
Yeah,
And
my
that's
response to that would be no means no if both communities
Exactly.
No.
Yes.
say no, but that is not the case.
So that's what I'm saying, there's still a lot of confusion out there, and I want to hear on the floor, and I want to...
And this is why I think, I appreciate Selectman Schofield's flow chart. It is a good flow chart, but I know it is a complex process in and of itself. But very simply put, it comes back to the question of is the budget what the budget is, and the budget is. I mean, the number is what the number is. It's there to maintain the programs, it's there to maintain the level of education, it's there in order to be able to operate the school in an effective manner. Okay? And so when one town says yes and one town says no, this is the process we end up going through.
And I appreciate answering the question,
Yeah.
because I think, especially with the TV on and all the other things, people have a right to know.
I mean, just like the Upton Selectmen could have said, I'm not gonna have an override vote and I will fund it another way.
Yes.
Right. So. Other questions? Okay. Then on to new business. Thank you. On to new business, the end of year one-to-one learning survey.
Okay, well, we're in the process now of surveying all of our stakeholders, students, parents, teachers, about our one-to-one learning program. So I've asked Anthony, who really has, once again, done a yeoman's job in really spearheading our efforts here at MISCO, to kind of briefly go through some of our initial results and what are some of the takeaways from surveying our kids this year.
So basically, just as a little background information for who the survey was administered to, first of all, the survey was developed by Maureen Cohen, Dale Casal, and some other members of the one-to-one admin learning committee that we have. It was given to all students in grades 5 through 12. We had 364 students respond from MISCO and 171 respond from NITMUC. There were 27 questions, multiple choice, and then there were some short answer comment questions. And they're just looking to kind of answer questions about gauging the value of using the iPad in school, identifying subject areas and classes where the iPad's used most frequently, and then how much are they using the iPads in terms of during the school day, also at home to do homework and to do for purposes for personal interests also. So in this presentation, I have the links to the actual results of the surveys here, which you can click on. You can share the presentation to the community if you'd like to do that. So the kind of general observations that I noticed in the survey, one is that basically the students, both at MISCO Hill and NITMUC, seem to be having similar experiences with the iPads, which is really impressive, I think, for NITMUC, because this is the first year really that NITMUC's had it. MISCO's kind of been fortunate to have it be a gradual process of growing and expanding it year after year. So the teachers have kind of really been helping each other a lot with it, and I think that has kind of transferred over into NITMUC really nicely, so that everybody's kind of having a very similar experience. Students report the biggest benefits from the iPad this year they've seen has been access to the electronic textbooks. We have a lot of textbooks for Pearson that we use. That's the primary textbook company that we have for e-textbooks. And as well as having access to handouts, notes, and other information from teachers that they post on their Modo, Google Classroom, Moodle, and other learning management services that the teachers use. They report that there's moderate regular usage in all subject areas, but it seems like there's a slightly higher usage rate in elective courses, which is an interesting point there. They generally reported low instances of technical issues with the devices, but of the low amount of instances they have, they've reported frustrations with the Wi-Fi. Just losing connections every now and then, and just kind of being slightly flaky. And then most students report spending anywhere between 1 to 2 hours on their iPads doing schoolwork each night, and about the same amount doing, like I said before, personal interests, social media, looking at YouTube, surfing the web, that kind of stuff. And that the vast majority of students do not report having experienced cyberbullying as a report of iPad usage, which is always a concern that we have, especially at the middle school level. And it's encouraging to see that most students feel safe on the iPads and they're comfortable using them. They know what's appropriate, what's inappropriate, and how to act when they come across something that is inappropriate or of bullying nature. So, even though that is a good point, it's still something I feel like we need to kind of look at and make sure that it's continued part of the curriculum and continue part of what the teachers do with the kids on the iPads. So for the next several slides I have are just kind of, I did some screenshots from the survey results. So one question, how would you classify the value of the iPad enhancing your collaboration and communication with teachers? Obviously, communication and collaboration are kind of two of the main points of the one-to-one learning initiative. So overall, Ms. Hill sees that to be very important, that it is enhancing their collaboration and communication with teachers, and at NEMA, pretty much the same thing. Like I mentioned earlier, the students at Ms. Hill feel really strongly that to increase access to the resources online, the e-textbooks, and then secondary resources that they use like IXL for math and ELA support, as well as Discovery Ed for videos and other multimedia resources to support the curriculum. They find that to be very helpful. And the same thing at NITMUC. It does appear that IXL, Discovery Ed, and the secondary resources aren't used as much at NITMUC compared to Municipal Hill, but that's just an interesting point, I guess. And then here's the information about the various subject areas and how often the students feel that they use the iPads. Like I mentioned, they are used kind of moderately in the core academic areas with a little slightly more usage in the elective areas, and similar information for NITMUC. And like I mentioned before, hardly ever and occasionally are kind of the highest rates that the students report having experienced any kind of technical issues, which is really good. You just use the iPad, it just works. That's what it's supposed to do. And pretty similar in NITMUC. A little more frequently, a little more students reported once a week issues. And then here's where what I did was this particular question had the kids have like an open response kind of short answer thing. So I took all of their responses and put them in Wordle to make a word cloud. And what it does in the word cloud is it counts the frequency of when a word pops up. So that's where it's not exactly scientific, but it works and it looks nice. So Wi-Fi kind of stands out as being an issue that pops up kind of more frequently than others. That's at MISCO, and then same thing at NITMUC. And then here's the information about the amount of hours for schoolwork. Mostly less than 1 hour or 1 to 2 hours as being the largest amount of data, same thing for NITMUC. And then about the cyberbullying. Most students had never. Some students had once or twice, and the same thing in NITMUC. So I think a lot of the questions in the survey were kind of repeated from last year, and we've got a lot of the same information. I think especially like in terms of the time that the kids use the iPads outside of school for homework and for personal interest, stayed pretty consistent. I feel like And it's, you know, good data to have so that we'll take us back to the one-to-one admin committee and, you know, take a look at what's going really well and where we can help improve the program and kind of move forward to next year.
So do you have the data like split between grade as well?
Yep, that's, and when you look at the, let's see if I can pull it up.
Because I'm just wondering if, you know, if you look at a 5th grade or a 6th grade response versus the 7th or 8th, based on, you know, the expertise and usage, what do you see?
And that's, I'm not sure if the summary kind of narrows it down to that.
I'm sure you could.
Yeah. The link in the survey kind of it gives you this kind of the summary results, but I'm sure if there's a way to survey, we can kind of dive deeper into that, explore that a little bit more.
Okay.
I was just curious because I know how frustrating Wi-Fi can be on an adult, a middle school child struggling with staying connected. What have we looked at as far as improving the Wi-Fi connection, or is there a way to improve that so that we can cut down some of that?
I think there is, but my understanding, and please elaborate, Joe, is a good chunk of it is infrastructure, correct? It is, I mean, say a little bit more about that.
We, prior to doing the 7th grade test group, we upgraded the infrastructure in this building, so we're on year 4 of the lease on the equipment on that. I think when we look to replace that in the next cycle, we're going to add a lot more coverage. Issues in this building specifically, if you look around, a lot of concrete, you know, steel, wires. Building was built in the 1960s. Some of the issues we have specifically in this building are just from the age of the building. The stuff we have at Nipmuc, similarly, we ran into some issues where students are carrying more than one device. So we have a student that's logged in on their iPad, but they also are logged in with an iPhone. And, you know, in this building, not every kid's carrying an iPhone. At the high school, it seems like there is. So some of those issues, things we didn't foresee being an issue that kind of popped up after the fact, we've band-aided and tried to move along. I think in our next refresh, we're going to take all that into account. So that'll be like FY17.
How much of a building like Misco, the building materials, the concrete and so on, plays a factor in the Wi-Fi issues?
It's a big chunk of it. A lot of it also has to do with density. If you have 6 classrooms clustered together and you have 180 devices sitting there in this one little area and there's a bunch of access points trying to talk, there's a lot of congestion. If the building is stretched out straighter and you're dealing with, you know, maybe 2 or 3 classrooms overlapping, it's a smaller issue. So without getting into geeking out into Wi-Fi propagation, that's the diet version.
And just kind of in layman's terms, because this comes up as an issue, and I think, you know, most people don't think about what you just pointed out, Joe, but in terms of bandwidth, the amount coming into the school and the amount going out, can you talk a little bit about that, and in your professional opinion, is it sufficient for what we're running and so on?
I think we've hit the sweet spot as far as what we can afford versus what, you know, is available. There's availability of up to 1 gigabit of available bandwidth out on the street. The issue becomes how much does it cost per month. The monthly recurring charges get very, very high as you go further and further up the scale. We've discussed it, and we're going, every year we go through, I'll talk a little bit about E-rate when we get to that part. The E-rate process, we have to rebid those costs every year, so when that happens, I get a nice fresh quote of what's available for services. And we're just trying to find what the district can afford without breaking the bank and still delivering what we need to the students. Right now, we're running about, it's a 300 by 300 fiber connection, which is a corporate style internet connection like what you would have at like Staples or something, you know, a big company would have.
Okay.
That's what's running Nipmuc and the elementary schools. This building has its own dedicated internet connection that is, you know, comparable in size. So it's about 100 megabit here.
So in your opinion, our bandwidth should be sufficient for the number of devices that kids are running both here at MISCO and at NIMOC?
It's variable. Like I said, there's different scenarios where as apps come along and we start using more heavier, more bandwidth intensive applications, things like Google Drive, for example, which most people don't really give a second thought to. It's a a file going by. But when you have 800 students in there all in class trying to pull down a document at the same time because they're all in class at the same time, you start running into scenarios where you're looking at the router and it's pegged. So we are definitely maximizing every ounce of bandwidth we have. And could we go more? Absolutely. We're going to look at it, and like I said, when we start looking at our overall infrastructure next year, I definitely see some changes coming, and I'll talk about that in the tech one.
Okay.
Anthony, I have a question. Like, a lot of these questions are very black and white, like it falls into one category or another. Were there any opportunities for students to kind of provide some soft feedback about their experiences?
Yep, towards the end of the survey were some kind of open responses. So there's questions at the end. What do you see the greatest benefits of the iPad this past year in your learning? In what areas would you like to see the district offer more support? Then talking about like our goal and whatnot. So there was some opportunities for the kids to give some kind of just open feedback on the program.
If you have the time, I advise you to go through those,
Yeah, I would love
Maria.
to.
It takes a while to scroll through, a few hundred responses, but
And just can I add into, you can filter it. So if you wanted to look at a specific grade level, there's a place where you can filter by the question and then the grade, so you can kind of target more if you want. And you can also customize how you look at the data. So sometimes there's different kind of charts rather than the bar chart, a pie chart. There are different ways that you can look at it, which can be helpful to clarify as well.
I definitely will go through the materials and the items. I guess one of the questions that's sitting in my head in the back is, when we started this, we've rolled it out across, starting in 5th grade up. Clearly, I think when you hit 7th and 8th grade, it makes a lot of sense. My question is really about the effectiveness of the program in 5th and 6th grade. And the question of, I've been asked before by parents, are we introducing iPads too early? And I guess my question is, based on the feedback and our learnings, what does it show around, the introduction at the point we introduce it? Is this something we should adjust the program, or maybe we don't introduce it until 7th grade? I'm just asking the question because I know I've been asked a lot. I think about it as well, having a 7th grader and a 5th grader, I see them use the device quite differently. My 7th grader is very focused, it's very much around schoolwork, mainly because he has so much homework. My 5th grader, not quite as much. So I asked that question about, it's good to have those skills and learn, and they know them. But is it, when we use the introduction of this in the 5th grade, such an effect, is that the right time? I guess is the question I'm asking. And what makes it the right time?
Yeah, I think that's a fair question, and I think it depends on what your definition of has it been successful? Is it worthwhile? I think it is worthwhile to start, having the kids understand what it is to do online research, what it is to interact with each other online, to develop that kind of awareness with them. Do they need 24/7 one-to-one access to the iPads to do that? Maybe not, but it's definitely something I think we could consider discussing.
And I would just jump in a little bit, because I feel strongly that you don't teach reading in one grade level. And in technology, it's exactly the same thing. The 5th graders this year have done such a lot of work in how to communicate with their teachers, how to hand in projects, how to hand in things, which then when you get into 6th and 7th and 8th grade, that's not something that we have to take time to teach them. So it's just saving a lot of time, and it's good to get it done in the beginning. The children enjoy it. It is something that motivates them to do a lot of different things. I feel very strongly that we need to start it in 5th grade. I'd like to say no, because it'd be a lot easier to not start it in 5th and 6th grade, because they are young and there's a lot more work that we have to do on that end. But there's a lot to technology, and the earlier we start with them reasonably, the more we can save time in the 7th and 8th grade when the curriculum is so packed. You say there's a lot of homework, and it's because the curriculum is so packed, especially with the Common Core.
Yep. I asked the question really because I know we had some of that rationale in the very beginning when we did it, and the question really comes down to, does that rationale still hold up? And it sounds like what you're saying is true. It'd be great to see parental responses kind of fed into that, the student responses. That's why I asked for the segmentation of it.
Yeah.
You know, it's one thing if the, are the 5th graders using it in what way? I agree. I mean, most of them have been exposed already to technology in one way or another. So,
In the e-textbooks, we only have 6th through 8th grade has the 4 curriculum areas. 5th grade only has the the science book is an e-textbook. Everything else is done traditional. So we do have differences.
Kind of like the on-ramp, is what you're saying.
It's a nice on-ramp.
A follow-up question to that,
And I agree with you, you do have to start introducing at a younger age to build that capacity for when they are hit heavy with the heavy academics. What, with research, has the country been using this long enough to have solid research behind what is the best times to really start diving into this usage?
I think it's still so, in such an early phase of, it's still kind of growing. I mean, there are some districts that, like Burlington, that start in kindergarten.
Right.
So I think it's kind of a work in progress.
Yeah, I echo what Phil has said, because I hear a lot of parents talking about the use of technology, not necessarily fully understanding the use of technology and how we're introducing it. And I do understand your point, Ann, because I'm pretty vocal about not being the hugest fan of technology. Everybody knows that. But I do have to say, I've come a long way in terms of understanding the enthusiasm that students show when they are given technology as a tool. I have a whole lot of issues with it being a tool for other negative things, but I do feel like it is a great tool for teaching, for learning, for collaboration, for communication. I do feel like it is all of that. And Tana, your question about when is the best time, I don't think that there is any concrete answer there, but I certainly feel strongly enough that I'd like it opened up, that we can talk about when is the best time to really start a one-to-one. I would never argue that we shouldn't be introducing our students to technology from the younger grades all the way up, because I agree with you. And you do need, by the time they get to 7th and 8th grade, when the workload and the curriculum, as you said, is much more difficult, but they need to be ready. They need to be ramped up and they need to be ready. But I would love to reopen the conversation, because I have listened to those in the community who share kind of some of the same views as me, or just are a little confused in general about why we're doing it, like what is the overarching plan.
And you are naturally segueing, Mrs. Duncan, to the next agenda item.
There you go.
I don't want to shunt any conversation, but I've had this one-on-one conversation with Diane, kind of pitched around this conversation as a leadership team within the district. I think now is the natural time to completely redo our district technology plan. Our technology plan, correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, has not been done since 2007.
Correct.
And I think the technology plan, at least my experience in other districts, has largely been done, it might be a little strong to say in a perfunctory kind of way, but it's something that districts are held accountable to, because you need it for your E-rate, you need it to get involved in various grant programs and so on. I think we need to do a technology plan to kind of do some of the visioning that you're talking about. I think our strategic plan does a really nice job in talking about programs and talking about some specific outcomes that we want. But I think as far as talking about what is our K through 12 vision around technology, And what do we really expect as far as outputs and outcomes for our elementary students, and then our middle school students, and maybe we'll break that up 5 and 6 and 7 and 8, and then once our kids are at the high school level, what should it look like? I mean, I think I can say in my 4 short years, we've made really strong commitments to interactive whiteboards at the elementary level and one-to-one devices at the secondary level. But I think there are some of the pieces that you're talking about, Diane, that are missing as far as the visioning pieces. And I see that with, let's get feedback from our parents. Let's get feedback from all of our stakeholders about what do you ultimately want out of technology and what does it look like at various grade levels. So it's perfect that Joe and Anthony are here. I really view Anthony as a key point person with regard to the teaching and learning and the pedagogy that goes with technology. And I obviously view Joe as the point person who really knows the technical nuts and bolts ends of making it happen. So I don't know, gentlemen, if you have anything to add, I'll get off my soapbox, but.
No, I think it's something that needs to be done, definitely. I mean, obviously, the district is placing it, making this be a huge priority, and long-term learning is a really big thing right now. So, to develop an updated, comprehensive plan to make sure we're moving in the right direction and are able to kind of support it, that's a good thing to do.
I would say, having been through this in 2007 when we did the last technology plan, there is a set of frameworks we do follow, set up by the federal government, that we have to make sure that we meet all of the requirements, that all of these things are addressed in the plan, so that when we go for E-rate, when we go for grants, that they can easily, the auditors can find that information quickly. The last year when we really started crafting a lot of the technology-based goals and strategic plan, that kind of really filled in some of that technology plan items for us, and I think we can really start putting those, we can just kind of plug those in along with our long-term plans of, okay, here's what we've picked as our direction, let's get there.
So the game plan would be to establish a committee, something reasonable, probably about 12 people involving these 2 key players. We'd like to have representation from the school committee, but also representation from our parents and from our teachers as well. How long did the plan development take you last time? Probably 6 to 8 months?
Yeah, it was about 6 months. We had a mix of same deal, pretty much exactly the same.
It's something that we could do updates and apprise this committee of progress. I do think looking at, again, I believe we did a July surveying of our parents on the one-to-one survey. We'll do that again. We'll have a window of about 2 weeks or so. So please, within the next couple of weeks, if there's any questions that aren't being asked in that parent survey, that you feel like really need to be asked in that parent survey on one-to-one, by all means, please let me know and we'll include those. Okay.
And then you need a representative or 2 from the school committee.
A couple I think would be great.
I'm happy to say.
I don't know if there's somebody else who also feels.
I would like to.
Super.
Great. There, you've got your 2.
All right.
Perfect. Anything else on the technology plan? Or the one-to-one? Any other questions?
No, I'm just glad that we're opening up just to kind of reevaluate, rethink, and, create a plan that's responsive to the needs of students and thinks about what the goals are at every step of the process going from K all the way up. I think it needs to be comprehensive, and I think it needs to be thoughtful.
Agreed. So then moving on, we need to approve a Nipmuc Music Department trip to Washington.
Complete error in the agenda.
Complete error.
Complete. You approved that on April
That's
20,
what I thought.
April 27th. How that got there, I just do not know.
I thought
Sorry.
they're taking another music trip.
I was gonna say, I thought we already.
Two trips
They're
to Washington.
having a good old
Sorry
time.
about that.
All right.
That might have been a little more discussion this time.
Yes. Correspondence. The only correspondence I got, that I think everybody got from Senator Michael Moore in regards to all the work he did to try to get more money, but then he didn't get any more money. But maybe we will get some more money at some point. So, that's just, Phil, I tried to simplify that down so that people would understand it. If people want the note, we're happy to send it out. It was a very nice note that he sent. So thank you. I do appreciate, because I know he does work hard. And then, future, I don't know if anybody has any other items for the agenda. Future items, we'll talk about the audit, 2014 audit, and the adolescent health survey data. Will be on in August. Okay. Any other thoughts? Okay. So then at that, I just need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor? Aye. All right, adjourn. 7:54. Look at that.